Hi, welcome to another Super Deluxe Edition unboxing video. Today we're going to take a look at the new deluxe reissue of Lou Reed's 1989 album, New York. So this was the album where Lou Reed came back and impressed the critics and started selling records again. It's a real favourite of mine actually, Lou Reed. 1989 this was released. And he followed it up with Songs for Drella with John Cale, and then Magic and Loss, which is arguably, I actually think Magic and Loss might be a bit better than New York. But great album, great cover art. Now this is being issued by Warner, so this is a big 3 CD, DVD, 2 LP package. Very much in the style of what they've done with Fleetwood Mac or Ramones. So let's take a look. This is a large format 12 by 12 book pack, if you like. It actually opens up into 6 panels. So they're the 4 optical discs. And New York is now a 2 LP set. So it came out as a single LP, but it's now a 2 LP set for this reissue. So that's what this gatefold wallet's about. So as I say, really nice artwork. So the 2 records sit in the 2 pockets that you see there. It's heavyweight 180 gram vinyl, black vinyl, replicating the Sire labels. And then this comes with a large format booklet, which is actually really good. I like this cover without Lou Reed on it. That's quite nice. But yeah, there's some great pictures here actually. Bit of background information on the album, some contact sheets of Lou Reed. Nice behind the scenes stuff. David Frick has written the notes. There's always a lot of joking on the site about David Frick, but he does a good job. And then you get all the lyrics for the songs. And then there's some archival notes at the back, some details, some scans from tapes, etc. And then the track listing there. And that's it. So let's talk a little bit about the content. So CD 1 is the album newly remastered, as is the 2 LP set. The second disc is live material from the archives. Now, there is a DVD of the New York album, which was the show that was filmed in Montreal in Canada. So that's one show, but this second CD is actually a collection of sort of the best live versions from various different shows, and none of them repeat from the DVD, so it's a really good thing that they've done here actually. And I have to say the live versions are really interesting, and I'm not normally one, sometimes I tend a bit towards demos and studio material, but in this instance the live stuff's really good. You know, Lou Reed explores the kind of melodies a little bit, changes things around. I mean, Halloween Parade is a good example of that. It's got a kind of really nice doo-wop kind of vocal harmony at the end. There's plenty of differences, so it's really interesting interpretations. So it's actually a brilliant disc, this. The second CD is really good. Now the third disc is what you might consider a traditional archive bonus disc. So it has various things on it. If we take a look at this disc here, you get the 7-inch version of Romeo Had Juliet. So that's been out before because that was out obviously as a 7-inch single at the time, but then there's a whole load of unreleased stuff, so work tape versions, you know, rough mixes, that kind of thing. I found them really fascinating. I mean, there's lots of Lou Reed and Mike Rathke, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah, so Mike was Lou Reed's guitarist and songwriting partner a little bit, especially on Magic and Loss in this era. He was actually Lou's brother-in-law because he was the brother of Sylvia, Lou Reed's wife at the time. But anyway, there's lots of those two, you know, talking to each other and sort of working out songs and stuff. So it's really interesting. There's the acoustic version of Busload of Faith is really good. That's on here. That was on a single as well. And The Room was a non-album B-side, which is a bit of noodling on guitar, but it is actually quite good. And then the other couple of tracks at the end, which are definitely worth having, are a couple of encore tracks from live performances, namely Sweet Jane and Walk on the Wild Side. I think it was quite a good idea not to include those on the live CD because then you just get the whole album, which is quite a nice experience without tacking on a few hits at the end. And then the fourth and final optical disc is the DVD. Now this is region free NTSC DVD. And this is the New York album sort of filmed live show, which came out on VHS, and it's probably out on Laserdisc as well, but it's never been on DVD. I've watched this all the way through and really enjoyed it. I mean, there is that limitation where it's filmed on video, so it's never going to look brilliant. So certainly there's some of the shots where there's red and blue light, it just doesn't look particularly great, I have to say. You can only really look back and reflect on the fact that, you know, with so much money sloshing around in the music industry in the 1980s, it's a pity that more wasn't spent on, you know, 16mm or 35mm filmed concerts, which would now look brilliant because you'd be able to restore them to 4K, etc. But, you know, not much you can do about it, so it's still a really enjoyable performance. I mean, it's great seeing him perform it. He's in good humour. And the other thing to point out, this wasn't really widely reported at the time. I remember seeing this on a spec sheet very early on, and then it disappeared from the press release and from the sales sheets from the record label. But this DVD does indeed have a high-res stereo 96/24 stereo version of the album, so that's a nice little bonus, a physical high-res version. So on the back here, on the box set, it lays it all out there, the 4 discs. It's a great album because even though it was recorded probably in 1988 and then came out in 1989, so it is the 80s, the lyrics date the album. Not in a bad way, but they just date it to that time. You know, he's talking about Morton Downey Jr. and stuff like that. I mean, I remember seeing that that show when I was in New York in 1989. But so the lyrics date it, but the music doesn't. That's what's so good about it. So the music is kind of timeless, and the lyrics are kind of a document of that era, that period in Lou Reed's life, which is kind of what you want. This and Magic and Loss, I think, are my 2 favourite albums. I know Berlin's great, I know Transformer's great, but I think this is just such a great record. So I'm really, really pleased that Warner's have put out this deluxe edition, and I hope it does well, and I hope it's the start of, you know, I hope we see Songs for Drella, I hope we see Magic and Loss, at least those 3, in a similar presentation. I know there was some grumbles that, you know, why do we have to have 2 vinyl records in this box set? I understand the frustration, but apart from a 5.1 mix, which would be vaguely ludicrous, I think, of this album, but can't really see that they could have done much more with it. You know, you've got the remastered album, you've got a little look into the archive, you've got period single edits and B-sides, etc. You know, a really great live disc and the DVD with the high-res version. I mean, it has everything. And good for Lou Reed for performing this album in its entirety at the time, because that just makes it so perfect for this kind of reissue, where you can put the whole album as live, you can put the whole album as a DVD. So it's really great stuff. I'd highly recommend this. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching the video. Please subscribe to the SDE YouTube channel, and I'll sign off by saying this is Paul looking at the Lou Reed New York Deluxe Edition.